Uh, Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I am going to explain a very important topic. We are passing a very critical phase since Second World War uh, because recently uh, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio made a very significant and important comment, that is that the China's growth should not be at the expense of US's fall. So it means very important to understand that the growth of China and the fall of USA. And if we go back few weeks, and we know that Donald Trump visited China, and Xi Jinping made two very strong comment. One is during Trump's visit that the United States must avoid Thucydides Trap. And the second comment he made during Vladimir Putin's China visit, that the world might return to love of jungle. So these three statements is very important to conceptualize and to understand the global power politics and the dynamics of global power politics. And to be you may agree or disagree that the shift balance, global balance, and the shift of balance of power in global systems. And since end of the Soviet Russia and end of Cold War, United States has been enjoying the unipolar status, and they are the ultimate hegemony in the global systems. They maintained, USA has a very significant presence in around the world, especially the key areas of the around the sea and air, and especially in Middle East and all around the all. The United States has a huge military presence. No other country has that kind of presence. And United States has a very strong military alliance like NATO, and they have a trusted allies like European Union, Britain, France, Germany, Australia, Canada. They all are the great, ally of United States of America. In many forums, international forums, and United Nations Security Council, United States has a very strong bias, and that's why they have been enjoying a huge dominance in global systems. But unfortunately, not fortunate, whatever we can call it, fortunate or unfortunate, it is being observer of global systems since couple of years. We anticipating, and we are observing that the rise of China as an economic giant has already surpassed United States of America, and has already surpassed United States of America. So when a country or a nation become economically so powerful, and suddenly it has a vision to be powerful in terms of military, because if you want to do business, you need military power. If you want to do business, you need soft power, you need hard power, you need air power. So China is not lagging behind. China is developing its own nuclear programs. China has building its own military equipment, specifically with reference to Operation Sindoor by India in Pakistan. And India somehow managed to escape, but the humiliation that the Rafale aircraft carrier has been destroyed by the Pakistanis, and there are speculation that the Pakistan used Chinese C-10 and C-types anti-aircraft destroyers. So Chinese equipment and equipments and machineries and their tools has been probed in Operation Sindoor, and quite effectively. And so China is now gaining military power rapidly. China is no longer a weak power. So China has the technology. China has the rare earth mineral reserve, which is somehow argue that they have the 80% rare earth minerals. So it is a huge bargaining tool for China. So China is also thinking alternatively. They are trying to building renewable energy resources to avoid any kind of future sanctions to run their economy. So Xi Jinping made a comment, very significant comment, that the that the United States and must avoid Thucydides Trap. So let me understand and clarify what is Thucydides Trap. If we go back to a few thousand years ago, there was a Peloponnesian, one great, great political scientist and philosopher, Thucydides, has come up with the argument that there will be an inevitable conflict between a rising power and an established power. When a rising power, the emergence of a new rising power or a great power will be treated by the established or existed power as a threat to its own existence. That's why there will be a clash between the rising power and emerging power. So Xi Jinping mentioned that the China is an accelerating power, China is a rising power, and United States is a established power. So if United States try to stop the Chinese rise, and there will be a war. So this is in clearly warning for the United States of America that if you want to fight us, you will lose. And like what happened in Peloponnesian on the rise of Athens and the Sparta, there was a clash, and finally Athenians wins. And that's how, if United States does not welcome Chinese growth, if United States want to stop Chinese presence, and wants to defeat China economically, militarily, in global system, and there will be inevitable clash. So Xi Jinping indirectly warned the United States of America that the China's growth is peaceful and China's growth is harmonious, and it is good for the United States, it is good for the world economy. So if you want to stop the Chinese growth, then there will be inevitable clash, and China is preparing for it. Whatever the peaceful exposure China wants to establish in global rhetoric, and it is not surprising that China is building its arsenal, and China is preparing for all fronts and all options. And yes, China over the last history of China is by and large is peaceful, but we don't know that if there is a big power in terms of economy, if you have the weapons, if you have the power, money, and if you have the manufacturing capacity, if you have the best resources, if you have the best technologies, so why should I be dominated by the others? Certainly I will raise my voice. So China wants to see a world where China's voices are heard. And another important thing is United States is gradually falling, because being the great superpower, United States should have won the Iran war very smoothly, and United States unfortunately could not win the Iran war, though they destroyed and they killed all the major leaders of the Iran. But unfortunately, they are not able to subjugate and defeat Iran, and that gives a clear message to the world that the United States is no longer a great power. If they are the great power, they should have won the Iran war. So the longer the Iran war takes, and the weaker the United States image in global system. So, and already United States image as a global and unipolar power has been shattered, has been faded. So, and that's why on the other hand, in terms of soft power, China is providing funding, scholarship to around the world. On the other hand, US is cutting its scholarships. United States of America is cutting its aid program to the third world countries. United States of America is shortening its financial budget around the world. So on the other hand, China is increasing. So there is a reverse trend where China is growing and United States is just shrinking. So there, in the meantime, there will be a clash, and we don't know whether it is a direct clash. If there is a direct clash, we might see the third world war, or if there is an indirect clash, and the countries like Iran, countries like many third world countries may suffer proxy war, and it might happen because China wants to develop and expand its sphere of influence. On the other hand, United States of America wants to contain China. So next 4 or 5 years is going to be a very critical for the global history. We might see the third world war, or we might see a new emergence of China as a great power. So this is not going to be smooth, because United States will want to ensure that to stop the Chinese growth. But on the other hand, what is more miserable for the United States of America? United States of America under Donald Trump administration has failed to maintain a strong relationship with its established allies like European Union and NATO members. Donald Trump publicly criticizing NATO, Donald Trump publicly criticizing Britain, and Donald Trump publicly criticizing France. So it indicates there are some kind of mistrust, there are some kind of miscommunication between the European Union and United States of America, and that is a great bonanza for the China and Russia. On the other hand, we have seen some kind of alignment and realignment between Pakistan, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. And because United States has failed to protect the Gulf countries during Iran response, so Iran is specifically attacking the Qatar and UAE and Saudi Arabia, but unfortunately US is withdrawing its troops. So Gulf countries is now thinking differently. They are now worried that if any kind of aggression took place by the Iran, who is going to protect us? And that is a very valid concern, and that is a very valid concern, and this is a very significant and questions that can be raised against the US's deterrence. So the Gulf countries enjoyed a security guarantee by the United States of America for the last couple of decades, but unfortunately during Trump administrations, Gulf country now they feel insecure, they feel they feel their territorial integrity is in big question. So they are now thinking alternatives, and they want, and specifically and especially the Saudi Arabia, Qatar now trying to making some kind of military arrangement with Pakistan, who is a nuclear power, and Turkey to ensure that they remain capable to fight against any kind of external threat. So this is a clear blow to the United States of America, that they are trusted allies. There are many countries in the world no longer relying on United States of America. So this is a major blow, the blow to US hegemony. So upcoming days, we all know, are going to be a very interesting, and how China react to the US poking, and USA is try to pull China to a war directly, and on the other hand China is try to avoid direct war with USA right at the moment, and they want to ensure their growth momentum is going on, and United States of America on the other hand try to halt China's growth. So this is going to be in a very interesting battle, and United States of America wants to contain China. So and in the past few years it was tacit, it was a secret battle, but nowadays Xi Jinping's clear warning and US Secretary of State Marco Rubio's clear warning, and these statements might trigger some kind of global scenario where we will see some kind of direct confrontation between China and USA. So I think USA is on the back foot right now, and China is on right track, and they have a very good alliance with Russia. And on the other hand, there is a fractured and miscommunication between USA and European Union. So upcoming days is going to be a very critical, that how China and USA accommodate each other, and which is going to be the deciding factor for the fate of the global system. Thank you.